everyone, and welcome to Real Talk on Racism. My name is Lisa Hurley, and I am your host today. Today we have with us a very, very special guest. Her name is Jacquie Abram, and she is the international best-selling and award-winning author of Hush Money: How One Woman Proved Systemic Racism in Her Workplace and Kept Her Job. She has been featured in Forbes, Yahoo News, CBS, and NBC, among others. And Hush Money is a #1 Amazon bestseller and is the recipient of the Reader's Favorite Gold Medal for social issues novels. Jacquie, welcome to the show, my sister. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I am delighted to be here.
So let us jump right in. There's so much that I want to ask you, but let's start by taking a step back with, before you became an author, what was your background?
So before I began this journey that I'm on right now, I actually had a lucrative career in higher education. And in that career, my background is actually in finance. I'm a number cruncher. I wasn't a writer. I knew absolutely nothing about writing a book, and quite honestly, I never wanted to write a book.
It's funny you should say that, because that was going to be one of my next questions, like if that had ever been an ambition of yours, so just had never crossed your mind.
Not at all. I never planned to write a book. I never wanted to write a book. It wasn't something I ever thought about. And if everything had gone the way that it should have gone in my career in higher education, I never would have had the need to write a book.
And so therefore, it never having been your ambition to write a book, what brought you to this point of writing a book that went on to become a bestseller on Amazon? What inspired you? What incited you to write a book? And this specific book?
Okay, very good, very good. So, like I said, I had a career in higher education, and my career spanned nearly 20 years. So you're talking about, almost 2 decades. And I always entered every job that I've had ambitious, exceptional at my job. Let me just tell you, I was good.
It's what we do.
It's what we do.
It's what we do as Black women.
That's right. It's what we do, and I was exceptional. And because of that ambition and that outstanding way that I performed my job, Lisa, I was always quick to climb that corporate ladder. But here's what would happen. After making it so far in my career, someone would notice me. And maybe this person wasn't there when I started, but they're there now due to a change in leadership.
Right.
And this person who's noticing me is not only a leader in a higher position than mine, but they're also a racist. And before I know it,
there are so many everywhere.
Yes, that rug is being pulled from under me. My career is being derailed. My career is being killed. And that ladder that I was climbing up on and me, we come crashing down. Now, the first time that happens, Lisa, you're feeling some kind of way. You're traumatized, okay? You're traumatized, you're humiliated, you're hurt. But you don't have time to lick your wounds, because in my case, I'm a single mom. I'm mom and dad. And I've got children I've got to take care of. So I have to find the strength and the courage to pick myself back up again and go to the next company. But what I always say, Lisa, is I ran from this company because I was Black. And when I ran over to this next company, guess what?
Still Black.
I was still Black.
Still Black.
I was still Black.
And so therefore I would imagine that this happened more than multiple times, and because you're still Black,
yes,
because we're all operating within systemic racism, within that matrix,
yes,
that toxic matrix as I call it, then you keep encountering same script, different cast.
Oh yes. And so
right?
By the time you get to the point in my career, by the 4th and 5th time, okay, of having everything that I worked for and everything that I built completely stripped away from me, taken from me, forcibly, for no other reason than because I'm Black.
And excellent.
And excellent.
And excellent. I think that needs to be said because mediocrity, it doesn't elicit the same reactions.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yes. And it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter what skill set you bring to the table. It doesn't matter what credentials you have. If a racist leader who's got power and influence notices you, the only thing they notice is that you are Black. And so they begin to target you and they begin derailing your career. But they're not doing it in a way that you typically see reflected in, I only know how to be real, okay? So
be real. Be real.
I only know how to be real.
What's the show?
Right.
Real.
That's
real
right.
talk.
That's
real
right.
talk.
That's
so
right.
let's have some real talk.
So I'm going to give it to you.
Give it to me.
The racism that you see reflected in a lot of the books, the movies, the TV shows, and quite frankly, a lot of the DEI trainings.
Don't get me started.
Yes. Is not reflective of what we are experiencing, what's actually killing our careers. And let me just elaborate on that a little bit.
Please do.
Many DEI trainings, they have important components. So I'm just going to say their components are important. But when it comes to the racism component, they've missed the mark. Because yes, we experience some microaggressions, okay? We experience that. And yes, we experience some unconscious bias. But that's not what's killing our careers. What's killing our careers is something that you never see or hear about in diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings most often, because what's killing our careers is not overt, easy to spot racism. It's not microaggressions either that's killing our careers, and it's not unconscious bias that's killing our careers. What's killing our careers is covert racism. It's a hidden form that has evolved to be harder to prove, more hidden. You can't easily see it. You can't easily spot it. And that's what happened to me.
Whew. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there, but before we do, I want to read to you, not to you really, to our viewers, a quote from the book, because this is going to tie into to the whole situation of being at work and those kind of experiences. So let me read this. Things were so bad that I dreaded coming to work, afraid of the new attacks each day would bring. My job became a living nightmare from which I could not awake, gave me an enormous amount of anxiety, and resulted in 40 pounds of weight gain over a 3-month period due to stress. Right? And so I read that, and what struck me was that you're right, a lot of racism is covert, and a lot of the effects, like people don't realize that there are mental and emotional and physical effects to being on the receiving end of racism. So can you delve into that a little bit more for us?
Oh, absolutely. So many people, because you don't really hear the phrase or the term covert racism, many people don't have a good understanding of what that looks like, because after all, it's hidden. You can't really see it. So I'm going to give you an example right out of my career. And then if you think about living in this set of circumstances over years, you'll see how it creates just a very severe level of trauma. So one of the ways that covert racism works is with something that I tend to call the Black workhorse. Have you ever heard that term?
I have, and why I'm laughing, it's not really a laugh,
Right,
it's kind of like a sad laugh,
Right.
is because there's another quote that stood out to me, and it is Ms. Kelly tried to break me like I was a wild horse she was determined and eager to tame.
Yes.
So yes, the workhorse.
The workhorse.
Tell us about the workhorse.
So a lot of companies, yes, there is a wage gap. Let me just go ahead and acknowledge that. There is definitely a wage gap that needs to be addressed. But in higher education where I worked, especially in the director level positions that I was getting, the wage gap was there, but it wasn't, just gaping where you could just immediately say, wow, there's a huge gaping difference, okay? So if you have a college system, you've got multiple campuses, so you're going to have duplicate positions. You're going to have a duplicate receptionist. You're going to have duplicate admissions advisors to enroll students. And you're going to have duplicate directors, one at each campus, to manage operations. So I'm going to use an example right out of my book, The Director of Student Finance. If you hire 2 people as the Director of Student Finance, a black person and a white person, and you put them at 2 different campuses under the same company. For the white person, you're going to onboard this new white director, and you're going to give them a training that is absolutely robust and spectacular. You're going to give them all of the information that they need that is vital to their success in doing this job. So they're going to have everything they need information-wise. But you've also got this big responsibility that you've given them, so you're going to give them the right tools to do the job. They're going to have an office. They're going to have state-of-the-art computer with 2 monitors, high-speed internet, a laser printer in the office with them. So as they're producing their financial reports and their documents, it's seamless, it's easy. They can produce work easily because they've got all the tools they need right there to do their job and do it with a high quality. There's going to be resources available for that white director if they stumble along the way. Resources, and they will, and there will be resources available for them. But even at some point in their career, if they, feel like they're overwhelmed or they need some additional guidance, there's mentorship. The leadership team above that white director's position looks just like him, and so they can identify with him on an individual level to help him work through some of these issues and guide him. So this white director is set up for success right out of the gate. Now, the trainer that set this white director up for success at his campus now comes on over here to the black director, okay? But guess what? Not only does the trainer limit the information that they know is vital to that person's success in my career, in my case, the racist person that I reported to intentionally gave me the wrong information about how to do my job because they wanted me to make mistakes.
And fail.
And so they're setting you up immediately. They're steering you in the wrong direction that they know is going to result in you making mistakes. But it doesn't stop there, Lisa. Remember those wonderful tools this director over here has? My computer is older than dirt. Okay? My computer is older than dirt.
It's an archaeological computer?
Yes, it was found in a dig somewhere.
I have worked on one of those computers. Yes. I know the exact kind that you're talking about. Yes.
And so, yes, the whole campus has high-speed internet, but my computer is so slow it can't handle it. So it's freezing all day long. You ever worked on a computer that freezes? And
you can't get anything done.
You can't get anything done. Yeah. You have to reboot it 5, 6, 7 times throughout the course of the day. So you're not able to produce the amount of work that this white director that you're being compared to is producing, okay? But it doesn't stop there. Remember that printer he has in his office? you don't have a printer because it's not in the budget right now. So you have to share a printer, a community printer. So you're printing your documents, but by the time you walk across the campus to the community printer, your documents are gone. They're lost. Some are there, some are not. Some are paper jammed.
Here's a question though, just sorry to interrupt you. But specifically in your case, because you're dealing with financials, isn't there also the issue of confidentiality?
Yes.
Just,
you know, companies have a way of getting around that. And so, you know, they say it's not in the budget now, but we've put it in the budget for Q3. You know, just make sure you don't print a bunch of documents as you're printing them. You need to go get them off the printer. So that's more time that you're wasting in your day. So because of these obstacles that have been put in your path, you're not able to produce the quantity or quality of work that this director in the same position is, and you're being compared to this person. You're making mistakes because you've been steered the wrong way, and the company is documenting the mistakes and your lack of productivity as you're trying to do this job. You know that something's not right, Lisa, so you want to talk to somebody about what's happening. So you want to talk to someone in leadership. But of all the Black people that are in leadership, guess what? You're it. You're the Black leader. And so there's no one...
A token.
Yeah, and there's nobody who can identify with what you're experiencing. When you tell them what's happening, they think you're making excuses until they finally say that phrase that makes me cringe every time I hear it. Well, Lisa, perhaps you should consider whether or not this position is the right fit for you.
Well, let me just tell you, I have literally, again, same script, different cast, and I have literally had those words said to me. I have literally been in the position of having, you know, being the only on a team, and having people of a different race consistently put roadblocks in my way. So I understand, so many of people who have read your book understand, and I think that's why it's done so well and is doing so well, because people are reading it and thinking, check, check, been there, done that, experienced that. And I would imagine, like, when you, for example, you go to leadership and you say, you might mention the printer, or you're really speaking about the symptoms. And so it's easy for them to say, oh, we're just talking about a printer. And so a printer is fixable and let's just deal with that, or not.
And it's always a delay tactic, you know. So for example, you know, a company can have you doing so much more work than someone else. But when you bring up promotion, you know, they delay. They say, well, you know, we see the work you're doing. We're looking at promoting you in Q3, but Q3 never comes. Okay? That's another tactic. So in the scenario that I just gave you, this director set up for fail right out of the gate. And they have the documentation that they've been collecting on this director as the justification to let this director go or demote them. And so many of our people lose their jobs or end up getting demoted without fully understanding why. And that's how covert racism works.
Wow. Well, I mean, I have to thank you for laying it out so clearly, because when you hear the two scenarios, the comparison like that, split down the middle, it's hard to deny that, okay, yes, this is what is in fact happening.
Yes.
Wow. Whew. So, you know, remember a while back, you and I were, you know, we've chatted numerous times online, and, you know, I mentioned that when I read your book, I had a visceral reaction, and that's part of what is happening now. It's like, you know, I have like goosebumps, and my hackles have risen, so to speak, because it strikes so close to home, and it is your story, is my story, is the story of so many of us out there. And so a question I have for you is, for the author who never intended to be an author, how has being an author changed your life? How has writing Hush Money changed your life?
So I wrote Hush Money from a place of pain. After literally suffering racial trauma, after years of trying to make it in corporate America, and not only losing my job, Lisa, imagine you repeat this cycle of getting this job, having what you need to provide for your family, having that taken away from you. Now you're living off of the little bit of savings that you've accumulated until you get your next opportunity. But in the process, you lose your home. You lose your ability to provide for and feed your family. Me and my girls were actually homeless. We were living out of a hotel.
Oh my goodness.
And so as you repeat this cycle, and you know that you're intelligent, you know that you're smart, you know that you're exceptional at your job, but you just keep getting set up, you begin feeling some kind of way. And for me, I experienced racial trauma that was so severe, Lisa, that by the end of my career, I was plotting to kill my boss. I was done. I was just...
I can't. I wish I had tissues and I don't, and I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
But
I was done.
I understand, and I'm, the tears are, you're crying and I'm starting to cry too, because I feel it, and I empathize, because it really can take you to that point of, it feels like a point of no return.
Yes.
And, I've heard your story, I've heard other people's stories of where they got to a point of what you mentioned,
Yes.
or, wanting to unalive themselves.
And I was there too when I couldn't figure out a way that I
Yeah.
could literally get away with killing my boss without it affecting my girls.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I decided I was going to kill myself. But thankfully, God intervened.
So how did God intervene? Because I want to, one of the things that struck me about Hush Money is that the feeling I was left with was one actually of transcendence.
Yes.
And so, if you can.
So I thought that there was something wrong with Jacquie. I thought Jacquie was the problem, because no matter where I went, the same thing happened. And so I actually decided I was going to end my life at a place called Salt Creek Beach in California. I never learned how to swim, so it seemed like an appropriate thing to do. And as I was standing on the edge of the ocean, just kind of mesmerized, and the seas calling out to me, my cell phone, which I had in my pocket, rang. And I stepped out of myself long enough to take that call. And it was my youngest daughter, Delilah. And I picked it up, and she just starts screaming hysterically into the phone. She's crying her eyes out. She says, "Mom, these people are after me. I'm about to lose my job." And she's a single mom, and she's just hysterical. And then she starts telling me what these racists are doing to her. I mean, just some of the most heinous, horrendous things that they were doing to my youngest daughter back in Colorado. And Lisa, it's one thing to mess with me. But it's a whole nother thing to mess with my children.
I hear that.
And when I heard the desperation in her voice, and I knew that if I didn't go help her, that she was going to be at the same dangerous spot that I was in, I packed up that day. I forgot about my misery. I packed up that day, packed up my cats, moved out of the hotel, came to Colorado, and helped my daughter deal with her situation. And that was the catalyst for me realizing, okay, this is not just happening to you, your children are experiencing it as well, because my older daughter, I found out after this, was also going through racism. So now I've got something I can work with. I have an analytical mind, and I have something that I can explore. So I started talking to more family, friends and strangers, and 95% of the people said they were going through the same thing.
And you're a numbers person,
I'm a numbers
maybe a
person.
statistician, and
Yes.
so you're seeing patterns.
Yes, I'm seeing
Patterns and percentages.
And so I decided, you know, I'm too traumatized to return to corporate America. I cannot. But there are still many of us stuck in what I call corporate hell. And I have something that I can offer them. So I talked to my daughters and we wrote Hush Money, how one woman proved systemic racism in her workplace and kept her job. We couldn't get a publisher, Lisa. Publisher said no one is interested in hearing about racism in the workplace because many don't think it exists because you can't see what's going on. It's hidden. So we self-published. We took a chance, self-published. The investment we made in our book to publish it was $22, which was to have the cover made. So that's the total investment. I piled these books into the trunk of my car, and I sold them at parks and pop-up shops to anyone who would give me a chance to tell them about my book. 7 months later, Lisa, it was an international best-selling and award-winning book. #1 on Goodreads Listopia for best eye-opening African-American women's fiction. #1 on Goodreads Listopia for books to improve your social justice awareness on racism. It was a #1 Amazon bestseller, featured in Forbes, and the recipient of the gold medal for social issues novels from Reader's Favorite. And it was being read in dozens of countries all around the world. And people were saying my book was their roadmap, their survival guide.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that. And unfortunately, we're at the end, and there's so much more that I want to discuss and ask you, but we are at the end.
Yes.
Quickly tell people your socials, where they can contact you.
Okay. I'm most active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
If anyone wants to have a conversation with me, LinkedIn is where to find me.
All right.
You are guaranteed to talk to me.
Okay, awesome, and thank you again. My heart, my Jackie, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Real Talk on Racism, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.